Gavel this meeting to order. As you are able and willing, please stand for the pledge. Pledge allegiance to the flag
of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Good evening. Thank you all for coming. I believe we do not have anybody signed up to deliver public comment this evening, so we will move directly into the report of the secretary. And may I have a motion, please, to approve the minutes of our last meeting?
I move to approve the minutes of the regular meeting of Wednesday, February 28th, 2024.
I'll second.
Okay.
Yeah, that's
Any
good.
comments or questions? Another sterling job.
Yep.
Okay, if there's no further comment, all in favor? It is 6-0. Thank you. Moving on to the report of the chair. I have two items about which to speak. The first being that our next meeting with the town officials from the two towns is scheduled for March 13th. That's next Wednesday, a week from today. 8:30 in the morning, and this time it will be at the central office of the district. So let me know if you wish to attend. Secondly, we conducted a 45-minute workshop with the Rollinsford School Board earlier this evening. I thought that went really well. We talked about a number of minor troublesome topics, things that need to be ironed out, ranging from 504 services to bus behaviors, communication with Rollinsford students, just to name a few. I think probably the biggest thing that came out of the meeting was that we have agreed on conducting a 2 to 3 hour session in August, the workshop, where we'll hammer through all of these things in anticipation of their budgeting for them next year. That's part of the upcoming contract negotiations with them. So that was a good workshop. Okay. That concludes the report of the chair and brings us to the report of the superintendent.
Awesome. Thank you very much. Just to be a kind soul, I'm going to, the word budget presentation is first. That's going to be about an hour to a 90-minute presentation. So I'm going to allow Sarah and Wendy, I know how much they'd love to hear that, but I'm going to give them a chance to kind of go first. So why don't you go ahead and step up, talk a little bit about the web grant.
Thank you.
Thanks for asking us to come back and give you a little update. My name is Sarah Alice, for those of you who don't know, and this is Wendy Shaw. We work at Great Works School. We're just giving a little update about the REV grant to let you know where things are at. We were lucky enough last spring to be given the opportunity to apply for more funds. And so we worked throughout the summer to come up with a sustainability plan and how after this funding ends, we can continue to have outdoor learning happen at our school. And we were granted that. So in total, we received $140,000 over these 2 years. The money ends in May. We have to have it all spent by then. So we are working really hard. It sounds easier than it is sometimes. And it's just been great to see. We've been able to do a lot of professional development. We've been able to see teachers really commit to integrating outdoor learning into their daily practice with students. We've been able to really improve our spaces at the school for people to be able to take kids out. And it's just nice to see kind of a great shift in teachers really just taking advantage and getting excited and bringing their students out and getting them excited. We've had a lot of fun spending this money. Some of the fun things we've done was tackle our poison ivy issue in one of our outdoor classrooms by renting goats. And this was a great experience for the kids to get to walk goats, to talk about invasive species, to talk about safe ways to try to mitigate problems like that. We also were able to install and train all of our classroom teachers on a low ropes course. So this was part of our October teacher workshop day. Mr. Burnell is great on the tightrope walk. And so we have 3 elements outside and then a multi-vine swing inside. Great problem solving and team building challenges. We've been able to use it with our students. You can see them on the Whale Watch here and the Full House, and they love it. Even today, we did this with our Kool-Aid kids, and just the expressions of pride and joy being able to accomplish something like this was just great to see and just so rewarding. So it's been really a fun thing that we know will continue into the spring and in the future. The Hammock Grove has been a huge hit, and it is a great way to spend free reading time, and all of the classes sign it out, take the hammocks out, set it up, and just really have a great independent reading time. This is the Planting Our Fruit Orchard has been a great activity, and just it's going to be years of producing great lessons. We planted 14 fruit trees, apples, pears, and peaches in the fall with the fifth graders. When they were in fourth grader, they prepped the soil. And now we have these trees. So we're learning how to take care of them, and just the lessons that are going to come about pollination, about just the different fruit, about one of Maine's great natural resources. We're really excited to see the opportunities that come from this. We also, there's some more of our orchard. We've also been able to take kids out to a bunch of the Great Works Regional Land Trust Preserves in Vaughan Woods, Nantucket, Caybrook, and Goodwin Forest. And these trips are just so important for the kids to do our citizen science projects, to understand about invasive species and how climate change is affecting our area, and just to get outside and enjoy it, and for them to learn that these are essentially in their backyard, and that these are for all green spaces for all of us to use. So there's some of them doing their work, being able to identify the ash tree and the hemlock tree.
Again, I want to just reiterate our thanks for inviting us here. I'm going to just jump in right where Sarah left off. One of the things that we included in our innovation were stipends for teachers to be able to analyze their units of study and figure out ways to integrate outdoor learning. Kim Moore and Elizabeth Morrison are amazing teachers. They took on the challenge and they created a 3-week literacy unit based on survival. So the classes, and this unit is now available for all 4th grade teachers. So that offers equitability, which is a really key part of our innovation. Classes rotated to the Hammock Grove, the meditation deck, the hot classroom. They engaged in a variety of learning tasks, nature journaling, book clubs. They had Adventure Thursday, where they transmitted coded messages with flashlights, and they built shelters. In the activity that's depicted, that's one of their nature journaling opportunities. They had 5 minutes to observe, diagram, describe, and label an object that was in their bubble. Kids have an opportunity to ask questions. They're integrating math, like concepts like cylinder, or just being okay not knowing the answer because they're outside and they don't know. What you do notice is in one of the pictures, though, there is a computer. We were able to expand our Wi-Fi to reach our outdoor classrooms as a result of some of our REV funding. The reason this is important is obviously access to technology for information purposes, but also for student accommodations, as well as inclusion. So you're talking speech to text, text to speech, audiobooks are available, and they can do all that work outside. So that's really important. The remainder of the year is really busy, just like Sarah said. One of our projects, we're partnering with a local arborist. His name is Caleb Mendy. He's been involved from the very beginning. He's going to help with the mitigation of the emerald ash borer that is on our playground. He is also going to be involved in the replanting of sizable, like 10-foot trees to ensure the revitalization of this area. We have a lot of ash trees on our site, and our wooded area is essential and super important to our kids. So this work is really important. Another piece that I'm super excited about is we wanted to include nature as it inspires art. So to this end, we connected with a muralist. Her name is Marissa Jolie. She is young and she just graduated from the University of Southern Maine. She is a member of the Mi'kmaq First Nation. So in addition to establishing the connection of nature to art, we also want the mural to be able to serve as a reminder of the important role the Wabanaki people have played as original stewards of the land for the land that GWS is now situated.
Oh, that's cool.
So in conclusion, even though Rev is at an end, our journey in outdoor education will continue. Some of our goals continue to be to make sure that we continue to work with teachers to adapt the regular ed curriculum. Some of that work needs to be summer work because it is really intensive, but that ensures, again, that equitability across classrooms, which is super important. We have great resources. Our community partners are amazing. So continuing the field trips to our green spaces so that our kids learn that these are always spaces that they can go to reap the benefits of being outdoors, what that does for our physical health as well as our mental health. We're continuing to grow our Woodland and Wonder curriculum. We've done data collection on the Hemlock Woolly Adelgid as well as the Emerald Ash Borer this year. We have worked to integrate the Wabanaki studies as well as continue our SEL objectives. Finally, something that I think is amazing, I think sometimes you spark something and it just sort of grows. We have 3 educators that are pursuing a graduate certificate in nature-based education through UMF. That is
cool.
like, I don't know, the impact or the potential impact of something like that is profound. So in closing, we are organizing a community event. More information of that will come your way, but it's just an opportunity to bring in families, kids, people from the state, as well as any community members to not only see, but to experience some of the wonderful things that we now have at GWS. If you have any questions, we'll be more than happy to answer them, but I'm sure we went over our time. Sorry.
It's okay.
Thank you so much.
Yes, thank you. This is awesome.
Yeah.
Great stuff.
Thank you, folks.
Our kids are so lucky.
This is awesome.
And
Like-
just to have that appreciation of nature too, in addition to the educational aspect and the integration of all of that with
Yeah.
other areas of study. I just the appreciation, I think, and encouraging that of nature in general is amazing. And not to mention, I saw it up there, all of the opportunities for the team building and the connections and the social and emotional aspects of all that. Mental health and resilience it's like the foundation really, and we underappreciate the value of nature and so much of that. So thank you so much. It's amazing.
Awesome. Thank you.
Yes.
Thank you so much. Next on our report, I'm going to jump around a little bit tonight, just if you don't mind. Got some sad news last week that Carol Kimball, who was our longtime kitchen manager at Marshall Great Works School, is retiring. Just as Jerry said, it goes far beyond what happens in the cafeteria. That's part of the culture of that building. Carol is always willing to try to take on something focused around students. Has always been a great partner. For me, has always been a great voice to find out how things are going. She has a great perspective on things, and so she'll be deeply missed. But I just want to thank Carol for all her years of service.
Do we?
And next, I'd like to present the proposed budget for the 2024-2025 school year. So I think whenever we do a budget, it's really easy to get caught up in the numbers. What does this all mean? I think it's a great opportunity to kind of give us some perspective. And so we started this, we updated, but I think it's always good to kind of give you that kind of 3-year look in the past. What are the things we should be proud of? What are those accomplishments that really make us unique? I'm going to share those with you. So we're going to do that through our strategic plan. Remember, our 4 core values: excellence in learning, safety, positive relationships, character, student voice, equity, and support. All centered around students being the heart of the atom, with the community and staff supporting that. Also being aware of human resources, time resources, and physical resources. So accomplishments regards to safety. We've implemented Navigate 360, which includes mapping and digital photography of all of our schools. The addition of a school resource officer at Marshall Middle School. The SRO at Marshall High School has moved to full-time. We've improved the entrance at Marshall Middle School with physical access controls. We've implemented Alice across the district. We've created ongoing collaboration with the Elliott and Southborough Police and Fire Departments. Installation and maintenance of the PFAS system at Marshall Middle School. We are 100% compliant with that. Lead testing performed at all potable water All significant findings were addressed 100% compliant. Secured SVPP grant through the Department of Justice to upgrade and add security cameras in all of our buildings. There's a lot. Accomplishments with regards to positive relationships. We managed a global pandemic. That by itself is probably worth a couple of slides. A philosophical shift in our school counseling programs at all levels. And that's just not our work. We've been invited to present this summer at ASCA, which is a national conference for school counselors, to talk about the work that we've taken on in the last 3 years. We have the addition of the new student services hub at Marshwood High School. Prioritize student advisory and responsive classrooms across the district. We emphasize the hallmark experience in each one of our buildings. So that's something the board's talked about. Like, what are those things that, as you leave Marshwood Great Works School, are really important that all kids have to have a part of? What is that at the middle school? What is that at the high school? Trained our building leaders in trauma-informed leadership. We had an incredible opportunity this summer to learn from a different perspective, and it was fantastic. Ongoing mental health first aid for our staff. Enhanced outdoor learning opportunities. You just saw that. Created Howdy the Hawk character to help bolster student attendance and belonging. Accomplishments in regards to student voice. District systematically prioritizing at every opportunity to seek out student voice. Actively seeking out student voice in school policy committee meetings, hiring of administrators and coaches. Seeking opportunities for student government to be involved in the operations of our buildings. Soliciting student feedback and program of studies in the science curriculum at Marshwood High School. The main integrated youth health survey that we'll go over at our next meeting. Inclusion of student members from three different schools on our food service selection committee. MMS peer modeling program and conflict resolution trainings. We had a person come in to work with students and how do you manage issues amongst your peers? And give them to be teach the teacher, so to speak, but have students be the teachers for other students. Perform an allied arts survey at Marshwood Middle School to ensure student choice is allowed and students are allowed to pursue their interests. And we'll get into that a little bit more later. And then continue to support and enhancement of a civil rights team project through the Maine Department of Justice. Accomplishments with regards to excellence in learning. We've expanded our summer programming offerings and emphasized academic, social, and emotional growth in all of our buildings. We've added a project adventure course at Marshwood High School and Marshwood Great Works School. Implemented a co-teaching model in grades 4 through 8. Increased the capacity to use data to drive our instruction using the NWA state assessment system. Expanded multiple pathways to access learning by increasing outdoor education and extending learning opportunities for all students. Remove systemic barriers that may have limited students' educational opportunities. For example, that might be the work that we've done with our SFTC students, where credits were getting in their way, where sometimes students were only allowed to use elective credits rather than required credits. We've made some changes with that, and we'll continue to work on that. We've implemented a new SEL program, pre-K through 5, which is our Comochis program. Implementation of an SEL curriculum at Marshwood Middle School and Marshwood High School through the advisory program. We've enhanced the district health curriculum. We talked about that last week. And ongoing professional development with all administrators to ensure excellence instruction in every classroom. As part of once a month, we spend time talking about instruction in our classrooms. Accomplishments in regards to equity and support. Ongoing professional development to ensure that MSAD 35 community feels safe, heard, and valued in our schools. Implementation, evolution of the multi-tier system of support in every building, the MTSS program. Partnered with the Count Me In initiative, which is really a statewide getting kids to school absenteeism program. Increased interventions through the Hawk Block in grades 6 through 12. Created real-time math intervention for pre-K through grade 5. And now we've added grade 8 with that as well. Increased real-time reading intervention pre-K through grade 8. Included implicit bias training in all of our hiring processes. Utilized our Hawk Buddy program to allow older students to support our younger students through mentoring. Hiring of additional social workers to support the needs of our elementary school students. Addition of extended learning opportunities coordinator at Marshwood High School to provide additional opportunities for students outside the traditional classroom. Implemented a new career center model here at Marshwood High School to ensure pathways for all students after graduation. Again, we flip that dynamic. What is your goal? And then once you have your goal, let's talk about the pathway to get there. Added a district IEP coordinator and a 504 coordinator to allow for consistency between buildings, create smoother transitions for students between buildings, and free up our administrators to focus on classroom instruction.
That was cool.
I know.
Yeah.
When we left last year's budget meeting, the district committed to increase the budget as necessary to ensure proper student supports. Through the expiration of grant funding, the contract negotiation process, we were putting the budget together for the 2024-25 school year was going to be challenging. This is the most challenging budget that I've ever worked on. The hours that we spent putting this together is astronomical. The social and emotional needs of our students continues to change, creating new challenges for the district. So as we left, those were some of the things we had in our mind as we went into the school year. That all proved to be true. So where are we today? Our current enrollment, 2,120 students with a total budget of $35,800,000. What are our challenges? So now we're kind of coming to where we are now. Ensuring that all students have the opportunity and support necessary to learn the skills and knowledge necessary in the May learning standards. Over the past 2 years, our special education identification rate has increased by over 20%. There's also been a significant increase in students requiring higher level of services than the district can offer. A few years ago, we had about 14 students that were in our district placements. Now it's closer to 20. That may change day to day, but that's a significant increase. We have seen a dramatic increase in the cost of those out-of-district placements. Placements can be extremely costly, and some in the excess of $130,000 for a single student.
Yeah.
Social emotional needs. Anxiety and mental health concerns continue to impact MS 35 community and across the country. Our mission is for all members of the school community to feel safe and supported so students are able to reach their full potential as healthy individuals, citizens, and lifelong learners. This has proved extremely difficult due to the lack of mental health resources throughout the nation. We can identify it, we know what the issues are, but now what? How do we have those services in place to get our students what they need? I'm happy to report, the last I heard, which was a week and a half ago, that we have a new SWISA worker who's going to be beginning at the middle school shortly. Fingers crossed, that can change, but I'm riding the wave while I can.
Nice.
And again, SWISA is not something that's in the budget. We work with SWISA as partners to be able to get services for our students within the school building. Staffing issues. Recruiting and maintaining highly qualified staff remains a challenge as the labor market remains super competitive. Attracting qualified candidates for drivers, administrative assistants, food service positions, and educational technicians remains particularly challenging. Finding teachers really isn't our issue right now, is finding these 4 positions. That has proved to be the hardest. While turnover has not been as high as it was the last couple of years, we still have not been able to fill positions throughout the entire school year. Turnover of hourly staff has made it extremely difficult for a budget of salaries and benefits. And so we have people, we try to budget exactly what people make. So John Caverly, this year to next year, that's the budget number, we can put that in the budget. What happens though is if people leave and come in, they may take a different benefit package. And we'll talk about that. And that really, in a lot of positions, the salary is easy to account for. It's the benefit package change makes it significantly challenging. In 2023-2024, we have seen new hires consistently electing to join our health insurance plans in a much higher numbers, resulting in drastically increased cost, even though the salaries remain constant. For example, an employee who was elected a cash only benefit of $500 is replaced with an employee who elects an adult with child benefit with a cost of $17,500 for the district, which is an increased budget of $17,000 for one employee. You can imagine if you have 5 employees to do that, you're almost at a $100,000 swing falling within the contract, just depending on who you hire. Same hourly rate, same position, what benefit do they take? Facilities. Our facilities continue to age every year. Amazing how that happens, like us all, right? Sometimes people forget, Central School's 100 years old. The new high school is 25-year-olds. We have to maintain those buildings, and it's costly. So here's that business side of things. You know, we talk about education. Let's talk about the business side of what we have to manage for a facility. The district manages 5 campuses, 3 properties in South Berwick and 2 properties in Elliott, and leased transportation facility in Berwick. These campuses encompass approximately 124 acres, all maintained by the district. On these 5 campuses, the district operates 6 buildings totaling almost 450,000 square feet. The overall appraised value of these facilities is approximately $80 million. Marshwood High School particularly remains a large drain on the district's financial facility budget, While some still think this is a new school, a large portion of our facility budget is taken up with the high school. So that 20 to 25 years to a new building, that's where you start to see things start to go up. Economic climate. The current economic climate has drastically increased the cost of goods and services. While inflation appears to be slowing, we have not seen the price of goods and services go down. I'm not sure we ever will, but it's a key factor. Fiscal responsibility. Our community expects a quality education at a reasonable cost to the taxpayers. Balancing higher cost of goods and services with programmatic decisions that impact our students and staff in the classroom is the main focus of our work every day from a budgetary perspective. That's a tricky balance. How do we build a budget? With wood. So MS80 35 uses a zero-based budgeting model. Every year we start with 0 and build a budget based on student needs. We start talking about this in August. First day of school, what did the numbers look like? We kind of carry those numbers for October 1st enrollments. We have those numbers, and that's our beginning of our budget process. It's all built on student need. So this is a graph, and I know I showed this graph in the past, but the red is going to be the projected enrollment for this year. The yellow is projected enrollment for next year. You can see Marshwood High School is down slightly by 13 students, whereas you see Central Elementary School is up by 11 students. You see the dots. For instance, at Great Works School, I'm recommending the same staffing from this year to next year, even though there is a slight variance in number of students by 3. At the high school, we're going to look to add a position, and that's really based on the ELO position. I'll talk a little bit about that as we get further along here. We're at Marshwood Middle School, we're recommending a slight decrease in staff. Our projected enrollment by grade level. Elliott Elementary School, pre-K is 58 students, kindergarten is 64 students, first grade is 69 students, second grade is 60 students, third grade is 69 students. Central School, pre-K is 65, K 75, first grade is 67, second grade is 77, and third grade is 81. Marshwood Great Works School is 127 students, and fifth grade is 149 students. Why is that important? Because we have a class size policy, and we've spent a lot of time talking about the class size policy. And so this is a board value. And so this is one of those things that now we take those numbers and we put into the policy to determine our staffing. And so pre-K, we know that if you have less than 8 students, you can have those 8 students in with a teacher. Now that's not our decision, that's a state requirement. If we want to go up to 16 students, we can add an educational technician in that same classroom, but we can't go higher than 16. Kindergarten and first grade is 14 to 18 students. Second grade to fifth grade is 18 to 22 students. Grade 6 to 8 is 18 to 25 students. Grade 9 to 12 is 15 to 25 students. How do we build a supply budget? 2024, 2025, elementary schools, we are budgeting $235 per student. Marshwood Middle School, we're budgeting $240 per student. Marshwood High School, we're budgeting $285 per student. And then there's this little caveat where we have high school vocational students. They're not in the building full time. And so we reduce the amount by half because they're only taking half the classes. So therefore, with half the supplies, it's not devaluing the person. It's just they're going to be getting that services someplace else. I want to let you know that this is a decrease from last year. And so obviously, when we're in an economic environment where things cost more, there's an impact, but we're trying to find a way to make all things come together and be equal. And so one of the decisions, tough decisions that I had to make was that we lowered the amount of cost per student. So if you want to figure out Elliott Elementary School supply budget, you take the 320 students, you multiply it by the $235 per student, and you come up with a supply budget of $75,200. What are the budget drivers? So let's start with first the salary and payroll taxes. This budget includes a $1.3 million increase in salary and payroll taxes. $60,000 of that money that's been put in to create that number is the new Maine FMLA initiative. And so Maine passed the law where all people are entitled to family medical leave. There's a tax that the employee has to pay, and then that the school district has to, or the employer has to pay. That costs us about $60,000 to be able to do that, to meet that requirement. I don't really know what it means now that we're putting money in. Does that mean that they're going to give us money back when people take time off? I'm probably willing to bet no, but we can all wish, right? Health insurance. We're budgeting about $415,000 for health insurance. We have also seen an additional increase of $100,000 in health insurance premium due to the changing of plans this year. So one employee leaving, another employee coming on, that's a $100,000 shift that we've had to account for in this budget. So we do our best with this. This is a toughie. Medical loss ratio. Now, the beautiful thing about numbers is that people can twist them any way they want. And so we do our best to estimate what's going to happen with health insurance costs. So 2019, there was a 92.4% medical loss ratio. That means that for every dollar that we put in as a district, 92 cents was spent on direct services for our employees. There was 8 cents per dollar that was spent on the management of that plan. With that number, we saw a 5.88% increase, which I think is fascinating, that we put less money in, more money in than we spend, but we still got an increase. But that's a whole nother conversation. But anyway, 2020 calendar year, we saw a 0% increase. 2021 calendar year, we saw a 0% increase. Last year, we saw a 0% increase. This year, our medical loss ratio was 97%. That's not the final number. There's things they have to do to that number still. And so we are, we forecasted a 7.5% increase.
Yeah.
Out of district placements, we talked about the cost of out of district placements. We've seen an increase in that. Our student need is greater than our budgetary resources right now, so we needed to put $300,000 right off the bat into that to offset that. District goals, we saved about $217,000. John, what does that mean? That means that we have some things that were like one-time expenses that we took out under our facilities to be able to show that we saved some money there, to create some more money in the budget. And this is a biggie. There's been some changes that allow Medicare billing. We've talked about it a little bit, but there are some services that we can bill, that we provide under Medicare, that would create some revenue for the district. We've gone through that pretty extensively. Our goal is to start that April 1st. That will not necessarily be for everybody in the district, but we need to do a trial run to be able to start, even if it's with a handful of students right now, to get our systems up and running. And this will be fully implemented on September 1st when school starts, whenever school starts. We're anticipating about $200,000 in revenue with that. District goals. Any questions so far? Okay. District goals are based on our strategic plans. Never lose sight. Students are the reason for our work. Their voice, input, and active engagement is vital to our continued improvement. Their success is how we measure our success. Big idea. The visualization of our strategic plan. Let's start with excellence in learning. So the first thing that I'm recommending is that we add the extended learning opportunities teacher at Marshall High School, formerly under grant funding, and that's about a $113,000 cost. That was something that when we applied for that grant, 2-year grant, that we had to make the commitment to be able to say this is something we valued and wanted to see continuing. I think this has been an incredible opportunity for our students to continue to grow. So this is hard, right? We're trying to navigate a ship, but we know this thing's coming at us, but we got to be ready. And so one of the things that we know is happening 2 years down the line is that we're going to have a full day kindergarten, a pre-K program, which is wonderful, but we're not going to get any money for that, is my understanding. And so right now we have to add basically 4 to 5 positions over the next 3 years. And so one of the steps here is to be able to take a step forward with a half-time pre-K position. What does that mean? It means that next year, potentially at Central School, we might have 4 sections of pre-K with 16 people. So that means 4 sections with a teacher and an ed tech. And then we'll have 2 sections with just the teacher, of 2 sections a day with just a teacher. Still gets to 80. But what it does is it puts us one step closer that when we have to hire staff, it's one less person we have to hire in the future. So how do we ramp that up so it's not this huge budget hit 2 years from now? So we're trying to, while being mindful where we are, we also have to look to the future. We can't just be so hyper-focused on where we are today. It's about $25,000 cost for that. You just saw the wonderful work happening with the Woodlands Wonders with the Rev grant. Again, when we took that grant money on, we said that there was going to be some fiscal responsibility that the district had to take on to support these programs. So the way that we want to do that is currently one of our staff members is 4 days a week. We would like to make that person 5 days a week, and that really the emphasis is going to be working with the Woodlands Wonders program to ensure fidelity in Marshall Grade School.
Great.
How are we prioritizing things? We're going to reduce the reading ed tech at Marshall Great Work School by $16,000. So that we're taking away a position. We have those reading positions in place. Mr. Brunel and I had a long conversation. I shared with you when we went over the class size numbers, where the Great Work School numbers, we could justify losing 2 teachers, or we could have also keep the 2 teachers and have slightly smaller class sizes, but still be within the class size policy. It's that unique situation. I've made the decision to make sure that we have the smaller class size, but part of that is that we're going to have to remove some of these supports with the Rev. So that was the conversation that we had. I think that makes logical sense. Obviously, in an hour, this becomes your budget. There's an elimination of a 0.4 to 0.5 elected position at Marshall High School. And I want to be clear that these positions, and there's people that are attached to these positions, and this is never easy for anybody. This is people's livelihood. There's people where they help their families, and so this is real. And so I've had conversations with these people that we're going to talk about, since they're not seeing this on TV for the very first time. And so we're going to cut that position by about $25,000. So I'm not sure if it's going to be a 0.5 position or a 0.6 position. It's going to depend on what enrollment tells us what it looks like. Let me get into that a little bit. So we've been working really hard around making our elective program at Marshall High School grow. And so this is a current teacher, and this is their schedule. Photography, they have 7 students in that class. Chorus, they have 30 students in that class. Piano, they have 7 students in that class. Piano, they have 7 students in that class. Video production, they have 7 students in that class. So when you look at that, 70% of the offerings fall below the class size policies. And so we've tried to say, look, let's grow this program. Let's grow these things. I can't, with a straight face, when we're having significant financial balancing issues of doing everything, continuing to have class sizes this small. That's below the class size policy. We have to address it. Not easy, but something that we have to do. The class size policy from MMS ranges from 15 to 25 students. Over the last 3 years, the numbers for this particular position have fallen below the class size policy. The building has worked to increase interest in these offerings. Unfortunately, as can be seen above, 70% of the offerings fell below the class size policy in the past 2 years. It's important to note that the superintendent does have the discretion to approve classes 1 below or 1 above. Due to the caseload above, the district could combine some of the offerings to eliminate a 0.4 to 0.5 position. So here's the big idea. And people are going to see this and they're going to interpret it. They're going to say, we're cutting music. That is 100% not what's happening. This does not really involve our music offerings at all. What it involves is, moving classes to making, for instance, piano. We could have a class of 14 students and reduce a section of that and still meet student needs. So students aren't losing out on that. Mm-hmm. It impacts class size, but we're still falling within the class size policy. Also could look at piano over here. Photography. There comes sometimes tough decisions that maybe we run a photography, someone else runs a photography class, another section, and add those 7 students in. We've had to stretch out some schedules at times to be able to make this happen. And so there is not going to be a loss in student opportunity. We're going to realign that, but we're able to do that with less staff because of the level of interest.
Mm-hmm. Can I just ask a silly question? Why are there 2 sections of piano? Is one like a beginner course and the next one is no? Just 2 sections.
Use 2 sections of piano.
Okay.
That's the reality, and so that's when you look at that, that's the low hanging fruit.
Mm-hmm.
Right?
Okay.
You can make that connection. And look, it's hard. I don't like talking about this. I mean, there are human beings attached to this, but the reality is we have to do what's best for everybody. And when I look at this is really hard for me philosophically to say that this makes sense to me. So we can still have the same offerings. we're going to be able to do it a little bit differently. And we're going to have a cost savings to do it. I think that's what we have to do. That's our responsibility to the district to be able to make sure we're cost effective as we can.
How do you just decide, do you do it based upon student interest? So in the case like of piano, how did you decide to have 2 different classes for that?
We build it. So at the point when things are finalized, we have the budget done. So we have a full-time position. And so we need to fill out people's schedule at times. And so what we're doing right now is we're going into the budget process and saying, look, there's going to be reduced offerings. We're going to have to make some decisions possibly, or it's everything's going to fit in. So that's why I said, I don't know if it's going to be a 0.5 or 0.6. It could be teaching of 3 classes, or it could be a teaching of 4
I'm sorry,
classes.
like in the beginning when, as it was now, so now there's 2 classes. How do you decide at some point whether you're going to offer 1 piano class or 2 piano? What determines that?
Course registration.
Okay.
So we take the student interest when
So
we
the
do.
interest was originally there and then it's slowly gone down, so there's only.
A couple of factors. I think part of it is we have a full-time staff member, so we have to fill out their schedule. I think the other part that impacts this is that after course registration, remember, we're registering basically with the idea that we have 60 students that may be going to SRTC. We're going to register those students just in case they don't get in. And then when they get in, we're going to have to pull them out of the master schedule. So there's this circumstances where those students may have been in there originally, but as they migrate to SRTC, there's a change.
Thank you.
Does that make sense?
Yeah,
You get
for
that?
clarifying.
Okay. We're also monitoring course selections in the science department at the high school. Prior year enrollments are showing a decline, so we may consider a cut down the road. We're not there yet, but we need to let the course registration process go through. So we'll keep an eye on that. I'm not ready to say that I feel comfortable with that, but it's just important that we're mindful of those things. There's a lot of information. Is there any other questions from the board? We've talked about this. My recommendation is that we convert a full year IEP coordinator position to a full-time assistant director of special education. For us, in many ways, this is a budget neutral, even though it's showing a $29,000 cost. We've had to bring that person in over the summer on a per diem rate. And so in many ways, it just makes sense to have, that person become a full-time position year round. And we'll post that position year round. We had some tough conversations with Sanford Technical Regional Vocational Center. It's going to cost more for our students to attend there next year by about $30,000, in addition to maybe creating some more offerings for our students to be able to go to Dover to access some new programs that we haven't accessed in the past. We're trying to find that balancing act. That's about a $30,000 cost. I am looking at taking a cut at the elementary school level. And so when we did our class sizes, when you do everything and put everything down on paper, we're 1 staff member too many. I'm going to watch this. I'm not sure who that's going to be right now. I want to be able to give that some time to be able to manage it, because it might be handled through attrition. But right now, I don't see the fact that we're going to need to reduce the teacher changing, but I want to be careful as we go forward. But we went through, remember that jump from the elementary school perspective, the hardest one is when you go from kindergarten to first grade, you have that class size, but then all of a sudden, second grade, the class size increases, and that creates that span where now all of a sudden you might go from a number of teachers to a small number of teachers because the class size policy has increased a little bit. So that does necessitate. And so again, I want to remind people that when I do this, like this isn't like this isn't close, like this is below the class size policy. This is not just like, hey, John, one section's below, one below, like that. I have the purview to be able to do that per policy. This is significantly below class size policy. The point for a reading teacher at Central Elementary School is a $15,000 savings to eliminate that position. Part of that may be, I'm just not sure what the pre-K numbers are going to look like next year as other schools start to develop their own pre-K programs. This year, we had about 25, right? Up to about 25 students from out of district who are accessing our program, which is fine under state law. As they start to build their own programs, that number is going to shrink. So we're prepared for 80. If we don't have 80, and then we have like 74, then that half-time pre-K teacher will work on the reading remediation the other part of the day. So we kind of have that covered on both ends, but I just think we have to be mindful fiscally of what we're doing. The MMS technology position, looking to make a cut there. It's about a $25,000 cut. And so philosophically, we have returned to a student choice and grade level requirement format for Marshall Middle School versus Allied Art offerings. Sixth grade students are required to take physical education, health, digital citizenship, family and consumer science. Seventh grade students are required to take physical education, health, visual and performing arts, or a foreign language. Eighth grade students are required to take health. All remaining electives are based on student choice availability. So again, we try to give students at least one or two of their choices in the area of interest. So if a student has an interest, I want to make sure I take an art class. I want to be able to have that elective art class every year. If I want to take band and chorus every year, I have the ability to take band and chorus every year. But there's a choice. And then part of like education is that we can't do it all, right? But we teach kids that we make decisions. How do you make good decisions? And there's consequences for decisions. And so that's part of the conversations that we have to have. Due to the lack of world language options at Marshall Middle School and the student interest in those options, we have increased our world language offerings for Marshall Middle School next year. So next year, we will offer a French 1 class for our 8th grade students. That's a year-long French 1 opportunity. And then we will offer a 7th grade quarter-based elective in French. So those are 2 additions at the Marshall Middle School. I'm not sure if any of you looked at it or received it. We sent a family survey out, tried to explain our allied arts, kind of tried to gear what kids were interested in. Let's find out real numbers. After surveying families, 4% of the 8th grade students expressed interest in technology electives, and 17% of 7th grade students expressed interest in technology electives. Student interest can be met in less than a full-time position for those grade levels. So this is, now we're going to be in the weeds here. So I'm going to try to put this in English after I read it. This would look like 2 6th grade allied art offerings in the area of technology. So I'm an allied arts teacher. I'm going to make my schedule now. The schedule works that there's 6th grade, 7th grade, 8th grade, AM allied art, 6th grade, 7th grade, 8th grade, PM allied art. So I know because it's a requirement in 6th grade, I have to have classes in 6th grade all 8 quarters. So the 4 quarters in the morning, 4 quarters in the afternoon. So I will have 8 sections of 6th grade technology. I have to have that in order to meet their need because everybody has to take it. In one offering in the area of technology for 7th and 8th grade students. And so now their schedule is going to have, rather than have a morning and an afternoon, in all likelihood, it will be just an afternoon section. So that would mean that they would have the possibility of 3, because we need to have worker prep period in there as well, or 4 opportunities. So a student could still take the interest that they may have in technology in 7th and 8th grade and meet their need. But at the same time, we have 2 other sections coming in that would probably replace those same 2 areas of the technology with the French language being offered. Does that make sense?
Mm-hmm.
BAR, increased intervention and support. I believe in the BAR program. You saw the fruits of those labors. One of the issues is with the BAR program, though, is that the implementation of that BAR program has come at the cost of our intervention services for our students for reading. We have now cut down the number of students that we can see and directly impact with reading help. So what this does is moving money from another position, adding $12,000 to the budget. We would create a part-time reading interventionist that would be able to work with 6th, 7th, and 8th grade students during the Hawk Block. Way that would work is 2 days a week would be a reading intervention. So it may be a group of students that you're seeing for reading intervention who may struggle. And then 2 days a week is going to be a math intervention. And so we would want to work with those kids who might be in the red area or who are really struggling with math to be able to bring them up to speed. Obviously, we can't fund a teaching position for $12,000. There's a cut that we've made with that as well, Bob's. And so another issue is that where our extended school year programs in the area of special education, we had to add some more money for that. The students' needs have increased. The program was costing us more than we had budgeted for, so we have to, in order to meet students' IEPs, we have to increase that. So let's talk concept now, because this is going to be a little bit confusing. For all intensive purposes, on paper, we're making a cut in physical education. You're like, whoa, wait, what does that mean? What we're doing is this, is that it's important that we create an adapted physical education program in all of our buildings. We have students whose IEP, they would benefit from that service. So it's good for kids. We have professionally trained staff that can do that. And then for us, in the long run, it may also save money because it may be less physical therapy services that we have to get outside of the district and less OT services. And so we're doing a couple of different things. And what it does in all actuality is it moves part of that position, those adaptive PE positions are going to be moved into the special education budget going forward. And the special education subsidy is calculated differently. So for intensive purposes, we're making that cut. This happens in August, so it's a little bit wonky. But in August, when they ask us who do we have our special education teachers now, we're going to work with our staff to get them certified in adaptive physical education. They have embraced this wonderfully. If you have seen some of the postings, we have 2 postings opening right now. You might look at it and be like, ooh, that seems like a lot. I think at the Great Works School, the posting says, we want you to be PE certified, health certified, and adaptive PE certified. You're like, ooh, that's a lot, but those are the things that we need to look for in order to meet those needs. At Elliott Elementary School, we need to be pre-K certified, we need to be, elementary PE certified, and we need to be adaptive PE certified. So typical PE major, if you have, motor development classes, if you have biology classes, you can typically get a conditional certification really easily. We also have a great opportunity to partner with the University of New Hampshire. They're coming in and kind of creating a lab experience for our staff in May and June. We've got some grant money from the state where we're able to pay for that for our staff ahead of time. So our staff can kind of come in and have a class, for 4 weeks in May and June, get 4 graduate credits to be able to do that, and then also get that certification in adaptive physical education. For me, this is like a home run, right? It's better for kids, and ultimately, right, we're saving money for the district because that's going to create more revenue for the district because of the special ed calculation. So that's a win. But for instance, at Marshall Middle School, now when I do my 3 in the morning, 3 in the afternoon, one of those may be an adaptive PE class where I have 5 students who have expressed written goals in an IEP, and I'm going to be working with those 5 students. So there is an impact on the schedule because it will make class sizes larger in other areas.
Does that mean they can access like their needs like in school too instead of going out of the district? So it's easier for them too.
We're trying
right?
to, right? I mean, like, and I think that's,
Potentially, yeah.
and we're trying to build programmatic things within the district to be able. There's some level of services that we can't provide, but we want to raise that level as much as we can to ensure that. And so we've done some great realignment work at the Marshall Middle School around our behavior program, the students who have behavioral issues. How do we expand that and really create a true behavioral program? So if kids need that support of being in the classroom all day in a small self-contained classroom, we can do that. But we also can have a situation where if a child can access the mainstream curriculum, we want them to do that. And it's going to depend on their need and be able to monitor that.
Yeah, I think that's awesome.
We had to put, I always get confused with the red in parentheses because this is like Ryan's like auditing stuff. Like I see like plus and minuses. It's going to cost us about $10,000 more for the SRO at Marshall Middle School. The part of the COPS grant is we have to continue our portion that we pay in, so we're going to have to increase that. Increasing after school opportunities, about $75,000. And so one of the things that we've talked about as a board, you really expressed that you want kids to get involved in things, and this is one of those things. So we have an opportunity with our non-athletic stipend committees, came up with a list of things, and that's cost about $75,000. So we're now outsourcing our network administration. And so we had a resignation of our network administrator. It's really hard hiring out there right now. And so what we said is like, feel like we're fortunate to be able to find a director. Let's outsource some of that network administration. So we have someone who's on call, who knows our system, can give us advice and be able to manage that for us. And then to be able to kind of create that stability over the next 5 years. Mr. Buzzell's done a great job with this. He really worked hard for the district a couple of years ago, and we were able to we used to have to pay $30,000, and Rich got it down to $0. So we basically didn't have to pay anything for our athletic training services. Their mindset is if I bring someone in there and all of a sudden getting referrals to go to our practice, that's how they're going to justify the cost, right? I don't think it's working out for them financially like they wanted to, because now they want us to pay. Obviously, $15,000 for the level of service we get is not a lot of money, but it's money. And so we thought about this a little bit, and how do we do this? And so we are really going to have to look long and hard at what we're doing at Marshwood High School. And so I think there's some opportunities where we can charge for building use that we're not maximizing. And so I want to be really clear. Like, I'm not talking about Marshwood Youth Soccer coming in and trying to use the gym. I'm talking about Seacoast United coming in, who's a paid-for business, a for-profit business coming in using our facility, which is great. We want to be good partners, but we need to charge people. And we need to charge them at a higher rate. So we're going to look at that, and Mr. Buzzell is going to help us with that. But there's a lot of things that we can do. When we go after school and we see, all of a sudden outside groups using our batting cages, using our softball field, we should be charging for that and recouping those costs. That's our facility use agreements, and so we're going to use that revenue to offset the cost of the athletic trail.
Yep.
We're not going to stick it to Marshall Little Hawks, who's using the Marshall quote. That's not the goal. There's really clarity around the community organizations. Remember we talked about
Yes.
new high school having trouble? Well, here we go. So last year, we budgeted $150,000, actually $200,000 for phase one of the boiler project. We paid that bill. Now what we're going to do is we're going to do the boiler project with a lease purchase agreement for 10 years to be able to get that completed and have that project done. So we've taken that, part of that money, $550,000 is going to stay in the budget to pay for the lease, and then $150,000 is the savings that we're going to take. The playground at Elliott Elementary School, we budgeted that this year. That's money that we'll remove from the budget. The generator at Marshall Middle School, that project is done, and so that $50,000 would be used. Front entrance of Marshall High School, this is the one that makes me a little bit nervous. It's not done yet, so it hasn't been started yet. Our goal is that it gets started in June, and so we just got to make sure that we get that wrapped up, but that money would be removed as well as that's taken care of. Ground maintenance, again, things that we don't talk about a whole lot, but we talk about the facilities and finance. So and I can say this with a straight face, try to find every dollar. And so I feel like I've done this as far as I can do that. I'm really good at, Heidi uses the word Johnny, to chisel away at things. There's a couple of bucks here, a couple of bucks there that we try to save, and that adds up over time. This is one of those things where we said, you know what, let's hire our own grounds person. They're going to go from building to building. They're going to mow the lawns. They're going to maintain that for us. That was a cost savings for us for what we were outsourcing versus what we were paying. It's about a $46,000 savings that we're going to take from that. Things you don't necessarily always see, but those are those little pieces of money. This isn't little, but there's pieces of money that are out there that we're trying to encapsulate everything. There's about a $30,000 savings we're anticipating due to the solar project. And so, again, I just think we're trying to do things the right way without taking major risks. And so, the electricity due to savings, there was a lot of things. We could build our own solar farm, but then we're going to have to pay $2 million to build the solar farm. And the time we're done with that, when we pay for the lease to buy it, we're actually paying more than we did if we did the solar farm. So we spent a lot of time trying to find the right way. And so this was, for us, this was the best of both worlds, where we're kind of working with the state with credits and being able to reduce our costs. And so that was the way that we did that with no cost, but a savings for us. Student recommendation, we're also going to continue with our character work, the real-time student remediation, mental health first aid, trauma-informed practices, continued relationships with SweetSir targeted for staff and students in their mental wellness. 3 meeting model for students involved in substance abuse. And so what does that mean, John? That means we need to get out of the mindset that if a student has an alcohol or drug infraction, that giving them a 10-day out-of-school suspension is going to cure them. That's not the cure, right? There can be a consequence. I can get my head around that. We want to create a safe environment for everybody. But what do we do when those kids come back? What's the next step? And this is going to be where our school counselors are working with students who come back with students on the caseload to help support them in their transition back to school. I need to give Principal Goulet a real prop. We had this conversation at a meeting. We went through it. She called me literally 2 days later. Hey, John, I tried the 3-meeting model. This is the things that were good. These are the things that were bad. Right? This is a lot more work than you think it is, but it's a great process also. But you got to make sure you push kids. But that's the type of work that we're trying to do. So that's what that 3-meeting model means. And I want to be clear. I am not saying that we don't discipline students. I want to be very clear about that. But that doesn't solve the underlying issues. Restorative practices, talking about what's that restorative justice look like. We continue to have that conversation. That's a balancing act, right? Accountability and consequences is part of life. But at the same time, it has to be logical. Right? We want to make a learning opportunity. We're a school. And I always look at it this way. if you're going to make a mistake, do it in a place of learning so you can learn from and become a better human being. That's the big idea, right?
Yep.
And so that's what we're working with our stories order practices. Fiscal responsibility. This is the tough part. We have a dual responsibility to the citizens of Southborough and Elliott to provide a high quality education in the residents of our district while maintaining fiscal responsibility. We increased the students' superintendent supply account by $4,200. This is basically the Howdy stuff. We don't have money in that for the budget for that, so we had to find it other places. So we're just asking for a small amount of money for those district initiatives that we want to start. It may come from the central office. Something we can't control, but the increase of property and casualty insurance. It's about $40,000. So I have such mixed emotions about this grant. And so I know in some segments of our population, I think there's a feeling like, schools spend willy-nilly, right? And that's not true. And this graph shows you that. So when we look at this, the dots is the state average. The blue is York, and this is all cost spending per student, 2018 to 19 through the 2022 to 2023 school year. The dashed line is kind of if you average all of the SRTC schools. So you see that York is well above the SRTC average, Kennebunk is well above the SRTC average, Kittery is above the SRTC average, and that's cost spent per student. Is this Sanford? Yeah. Wells is above the SRTC average. Then you have the SRTC average, then you have the state average, and then you see schools that are below what the state average to spend on student cost per student is. We're below that state average. Sanford's below that. Noble's below that. Massachusetts is below. So the idea that we're spending left and right, and money's money. I mean, part of the issue, we have to be conscious and fiscally conscious of everything that we do. But I think the narrative is here's the reality. This is the website you can access through the Maine Department of Education. So on one hand, you're proud that we're fiscally conservative, right? We're trying to do the right thing to maintain a high level of service for our students, but at the same time, we're trying to be fiscally responsible because we owe that to our communities. But you also start to get worried that are we doing enough? What are these things that are hurting us, right? And so, for us, where we are right now is we're putting, a high percentage of our money into the classrooms and into supplies. As you can see, the money we're losing, that's the facilities money and the insurance money. Those are the areas that concern me, right? But there's a balance here. And so I think this is a good thing, but it also is a concerning thing. I think it is a double-edged sword I'm looking at. Certainly proud of it, happy with the work that we do. Obviously, this is the 2022-23 school year, but it does give you a snapshot.
That's an average, right? Basically from
Yes.
2018 to 2000.
2023, yes.
Okay.
Yeah. Yep.
Oh, I'm sorry. I see this. Never mind.
No, that's why we do this.
Graphs are not my strength.
Capital improvements. So to make this all work, there's less improvements that we're doing next year. That's just how math works. So we talked about a lease for the boiler. I'm sorry, it was $40,000 rather than 50. I misspoke, but you get the main idea. We have some classroom floors at Central Elementary School that need to be fixed. I mean, you can sound if you see it, but it's just, you have the mastic kind of leaking through. It's gross and it needs to be fixed. So we're going to fix it. What, $22,000? We need to finish the window project at Marshall Greatwood School, $21,000. There's a water leak at Marshall High School. We kind of put down $35,000. I think anytime you have a water leak at a school inside the building with concrete,
It's going to be expensive.
it gets expensive quick. So we're taking our best guess. And then we did receive subsidy for an additional bus, and so we're going to use the same strategy we used last year. We are going to purchase the bus. The bus will probably get here in March of next year. We'll start paying for the bus the following year once the subsidy catches up with where we are. And so we typically like to try to pay ahead a year because it helps us, but we need to make sure our subsidy catches up first. It's a strategy to be able to maximize our money as best we can. Depending how things go, I would really love to be able to reseal and repaint the parking lot of Marshall High School. That would be something I'd like to do. I can't guarantee that, but that would be a plan depending on how the other things work out. That's about $50,000. But that's a great example. Like if you could stay on top of that, we might be able to get 4 more years out of that. If we fall behind on that, 2 years from now, are we doing a $200,000 job because we have to repaint the entire thing? Like those are the conversations you have to have. And you do the best you can to be able to budget those things, analysis. For next year, our projected enrollment is 2,104 students. That's a decrease of about 0.75%. We're projecting a total budget increase of $37,700,000, which is a 5.2% increase. The property tax increase is 4.99%. And why aren't those numbers the same is because we get subsidy from the state, particularly in the area of special education. That was where we received the vast majority of our subsidy. As you can see, we have those high cost out of district placements, which drives the subsidy and decrease. Long-term capital improvement plan. We continue to strive towards sustainability in a cost-effective manner. We next year talking about a lease of 2 buses. We want to line up with state subsidy. We need to get on the brick ceiling at Central Elementary School. So brick ceiling is one of those things you just don't think about, right? That is a problem. I think probably 10 years ago, Marshall Middle School, we didn't do that for a great number of years. And all of a sudden we had a $40,000 project because the brick face was falling away from the building. So we need to stay on top of that. So Todd provided me a quote. I think I almost had a heart attack when we got the quote. It was, I am not exaggerating, $70,000, a little bit more than that, $80,000 to do that for Elliott Elementary School. What are you talking about? Approximately $30,000 to $40,000. That was the rental of the lift alone. So stop, time out. Let's try to see what it costs for us to buy our own lift. If we can do that and we do it on a 5-year lease and we're spending $20,000 a year to do that, we just saved $20,000 in getting the job done with our own people being able to do that. So we're trying to find ways to be creative to be able to do that. It involves washing the bricks and then putting a sealant on. Sealant's expensive, it's not cheap, but we did this whole building during the global pandemic ourselves. We used the sprayers that we bought that we thought everyone told us we were going to be allowed to use for the spraying on the buses. Remember the green sprayers we showed you? And then all of a sudden they said you can't use them. We're like, well, we're going to use them to spray the building. So that's what we did. Maybe I shouldn't have said that. I can erase that, Dave. We've got to stay on the roof at Marshall Middle School. We want to replace some entry doors at Elliott Elementary School. We want to start our parking lot resealing kind of process to be able to try to stay ahead of that as best we can. 2026, 2027, continue to strive towards sustainability in the most cost-effective manner. I don't know if anybody saw this. I sometimes you count your blessings, but news report 3 weeks ago came out that the electric buses that we had all the grants for, we had hoped to get. Fortunately, we didn't get one because all those buses sounds like have been taken off the road because there's some issues with them. So I'm like, all right, that's good.
Yeah.
Mary used to say, "There's nothing wrong with being in the middle of the pack. Don't be first because
Yeah.
let them get the issues out of the way." I know that all of them, but a number of them.
Yeah.
Sure. Again, we need to do the building sealing at Marshall Bay Works School, the parking lot sealing. We need to work on the Central School, some building roof repair. And when I say roof repair, I'm not talking about there's a leak, we need to have someone come in and fix. I'm talking about more major roof repair.
Yeah.
Replace metal doors. Replace exterior fencing in Marshall Middle School. If you have never walked the fencing in Marshall Middle School, there is a fence post, about 5 of them that are about 138 degrees. So probably they've been there for 20 years. Might be time to replace them. And then the windows at Marshall Middle School, there's still a few windows that we need to take care of at Marshall Middle School. 27, 28. Again, a lot of the same themes that you're going to see. This is a toughie, replacing that gym floor at Marshall Middle School. It's in tough shape, but the problem is it's been sanded so many times that now what? And then
We need a new floor.
you would hope that you could just,
Actually, put that down.
fill it up and put something down. The problem is you put that down, it's going to be higher than all the thresholds. So you've got to now chisel everything down to get it to it's a job. It's not just as simple as, hey, let's have someone come in and put down, wooden floors and we should be all set. And so we're trying to maintain as long as we can. Rex Goslin does an incredible job. When we sand it out, every time I say Rex, we're due for a painting. He's like, ugh. Because then now you got to sand it out. You just kind of don't sand too much, so you can try to get another couple of years out of it. But that's where we're at. You can see if you walk in there, you see, it's thin. It's an old parquet floor. We went to the old Boston Garden. 2028, 2029. Again, a lot of the same types of things that I don't need to. I do want to point out that we always have to keep the leach field overboard discharge in our sites because that, we have the permissions for that. That can change. We're one of the few that still have that. We work really hard to maintain that. Tony Berman does an incredible job, meaning the assistant principal here, but also taking care of our water management. That's a big, big responsibility. It goes bad, it doesn't go little bad, it goes bad. So we want to stay on top. Can you see when I say the rooms? Start begins to me. Programmatic improvements, short-term and ongoing, and long-term and upcoming. Short-term, review of graduation requirements, including multiple pathways, SRTC, et cetera. Continue to look at sustainability initiatives. We're going to really continue to build stronger community partnerships. I created a newsletter. We're trying to work more interaction with surveys to families, involving students. I'm really putting an emphasis on that. Maintain a robust extracurricular programs. A more inclusive model of special education, grades 4 through 8. I just need to applaud our staffs. That came at them fast and furious, and sometimes change in schools has to take time. And this is one where we said we got to do it now. And I just couldn't be any more proud of our staff who they've jumped in. And it's not easy because it's not, Rowan's going to teach a class, I'm going to be there. We have to plan for that class together. We have to take into account where kids' learning is and be able to work together to provide an education for those 25 students in there. That's a lot of work to be able to ensure that happens. And they've done an incredible job. Meaningful connections with every student. I mean, that's the big idea. We want to make school a place where kids want to come, and that personal connection may be what brings them back every single day. We need to continue to strengthen the MTSS program with the bar. Safety for all. Expand summer programming, expand intervention opportunities, expand the ELO program for students. I think that's going to happen inherently. And I think when you talk to people in these programs, we're one of the leaders in the state of Maine in this area. You don't know that because it's a program people don't necessarily always talk about. But Mr. Scully has done an incredible job where he's being, he has kids being asked to go and speak at a statewide conference about the work that they're doing. You'll hear about that later this year. Maintain and expand our outdoor education opportunities. We had a conversation with all the physical education teachers at the middle school and high school the other day. We have a training coming up where we're going to be project adventure in here. We got a beautiful climbing course. Now we've got to get people to train safely to use it. And then how do we integrate that into our curriculum? We renew and evolve our SEL programming and enhance and expand our health curriculum. So we've made some great strides here. So now we've got to recalibrate. Okay, we've done this for a year. What do we do? What is it okay? What are the topics that we're not hitting the way we want to? What are the topics that we have to hit? Having those conversations. Long-term upcoming. Use student voice to build opportunities to meet the main learning results, but remain compelling to students. Remove systemic barriers that become obstacles for student learning. Implement a full-day pre-K program. Refine and update the MHS program of studies to include expanding our dual enrollment, concurrent enrollment offerings, and advanced placement offerings. I need to tell you, as a superintendent, we have these conversations, and I go to see Principal Hoogtrup, and he says, "John, I got it." And he comes back to me 2 weeks later and says, "Here's a program of studies. This is what we were already doing." And that is just such a compelling feeling for a superintendent to say, we are pulling the rope in the same direction. It may take some time to get where we want to be, but we all see what the goal is. Review, support, and enhance hallmark experiences in each building. We need to get back to this. We need to talk about this. What are those things that make it special to be Marshwood Middle School? What are those things that make it special to be Marshwood High School? Use data to inform instruction and programs. Continue, we need to use student data. We need to be able to guide us what we're doing. Changes in state subsidy. Actually, going to the good things and talk about changes in state subsidy. That's a great segue. FY24, state subsidy in general, about $8 million. Forgive me, every dollar counts. I'm just going to try to make it simple. State subsidy in special education was about $5 million. Elliott contributed about $10.9 million. South Berkeley contributed about $8.9 million. And then other revenues is about $2.8 million. That includes revenues that we may get from for tuition students. A total of about $35,800,000. Next year, The state federal subsidy general went up. So you see, this isn't a huge amount. And keep in mind, you know, the CPI is what it is. $60,000 off the top is a state initiative that says you got to now come up with more money to be able to pay off for this FMLA. Like it's not necessarily real always. State subsidy in special education went up significantly. We talked about you know, those issues with out-of-district placements, the cost of special education services, what kids are really using. That's something they really look hard at. Obviously, we received some bonus there. The Elliott contribution with our calculations would be about $11.3 million. South Burke contribution would be about $9,500,000. Other revenues would be $2,800,000 for a total of $37,700,000. Changes? 5.2% overall increase. What are you most proud of? Things to celebrate. Supporting students and staff emotional well-being and growing as a place where all students can feel safe, comfortable teaching and learning. We continue to use the strategic plan to guide our decision-making. Kids are at the center of what we do. That's the purpose of our work. Open, honest, and transparent communication and problem solving was used throughout the entire budget process. We talk about it, we go through it, we get feedback. What is, you know, what student data tell us? What does course registration look like? Collaborative decision making. What are the things that are important to the buildings? You know, we have to, you know, we've got great principals, let them be principals. A budget that balances programmatic improvement and financial responsibility. And I think, you know, I think we do a really good job with this. I really do. I really do. So overall tax increase of 4.99% and overall expenditure increase of about 5.2%. I will tell you subjectively that we've kind of, there's some listservs that Ryan has access to as a business manager. That 4.99% is significantly less than the average that we calculate. Obviously, we're in a really unique economic time with the cost of living. You know, there's been a great number of things that have occurred. So I think, you know, we're working really hard to make sure that we are fiscally responsible. At the same time, we're meeting. So here are the numbers. Fiscal climate for the past 3 years. The past 3 years, Social Security cost of living adjustments have been 5.9%, 8.7%, 3.2%, for a total of 18.7% increase in the cost of living, according to Social Security.
That's crazy.
Over the same past 3 years, our budget has increased 10.67%. The cost of things is going up. We're keeping up, but we're not keeping up.
Yeah.
The overall taxes have been increased over those same 5 years, 2.4%, 3.08%, 4.99%, for a total of 10.47%. Potential issues on the horizon. You know, we've done our best to estimate the healthcare costs. We were right last year. We were right the year before. I don't know if we're going to be right this year. To our best guess, that's where we're going to be at. If it comes in higher than 7.5%, we're going to need to come back and address that issue with them. You know, whatever that means, that means. There's a potential change in Maine state law addressing pay for hourly school employees. So again, we have no control over this. Requiring districts to pay hourly employees between 125% to 150% of the Maine state minimum wage. So I know that, and it's facts that when we talk to the state government piece, when they have these things, they talk about, we're going to use the EPS formula to get money to people. But even with the EPS formula, like basically, you know, that's 35% receiver, you know, 65% still comes from the community. So these decisions have consequences, not within our control. So what does that mean? So right now, our lowest educational technician makes just under $17 an hour. If this, and it's not going to go into effect next year, maybe about 18 months away, but if it were to go into effect next year, minimum wage is around 14, a little bit more than $14 an hour. That would now go $21 an hour from $17 an hour. Like no conversations about that. Not even to mention, how does that impact your negotiated agreements that you already have in place, right? Because if that's the bottom, then people at the top are going to be like, wait a second, why do these people get $4 an hour and I'm only getting 50 cents? right? So we've got to be able to navigate those things as we go forward. So that's on the horizon. I don't expect it to hit next year, but I just think we have to be aware of these things that are out there. I didn't know how to account for this. We've applied for $1 million grant, and sometimes that grants are great news, right? Awesome. But we've learned two things about grants, right? One is that we got to fund a lot of money, and we have to have a lot of money in the bank that we can't touch for a long period of time until everybody at the state level or the federal level does all of their work to give us a check back. Like that's just the reality of managing grants. The other part is there is a 25% local match. We're not clear what that looks like. We're not even sure if we're going to get the grant. If we do, I think we need to have a conversation with the board needs to really think about, is this something that we want to do? Is this a priority for us? If it is, how do we manage that? We're not locked into anything, but obviously, this is, that is not included in my budget presentation right now. Just to be clear. That makes sense? And again, it's going to be up to the board at that point in time. So I'm just trying to give you all the facts, folks.
Do we have an idea when we expect to hear back on that grant?
August?
August, okay, so over the summer, thank you.
And there may be a ramp up. Like I just, there's a lot of unknowns, but I don't want there to be surprises. That is it.
Yes.
Questions anybody might have?
I want to thank everybody who was involved, everybody who was
Ryan.
involved.
Yeah.
This is
Very
a tremendous
in-depth
amount of work.
presentation.
Every time.
Yeah.
So helpful, honestly, for those of us that aren't financially savvy.
Student report?
All right. I'll start us off with the sports report. I'll start with ski team. Skiers Hadley Pruitt and Quinn McGuire will be participating in Easter's this coming weekend for the main ski team. Girls GS is Friday, boys is Saturday, and boys and girls slalom is on Sunday up at Attitash. Unified basketball had their last game in Kennebunk last night and went out with a win. The team stopped at McDonald's on the way home for a great celebration. Hockey lost their quarterfinal game in Bangor 5-0. The indoor track athletes who qualified for New England are training hard to prepare. The meet will be March 7th to 10th in Boston. Boys volleyball had their first game yesterday up in Falmouth, and they won 4-2. Today they played Kennebunk for the home opener. They played 5 sets overall, with varsity winning sets 1 and 5, losing the third, and JV losing sets 2 and 4. I'll move on to the student government report. So as we were having an upcoming presentation on March 13th, we have been watching videos during advisory to prepare for it. SEED is coming, so it's SEED, which stands for Student Empowered to End Dependency. This is dedicated to help educate high school students on the risks of drugs with a specificity in marijuana usage. The conversation has opened up some thought-provoking conversation amongst staff and students while people are talking about the impact of substances on our own community. So on March 13th, there will be a presentation where SEED will come in, and there will be activities for all grades. And I'll leave it to James.
So last week and this week, we had 2 visitors from North Carolina and Venezuela, Larry and Joe. They're both versatile multi-instrumentalists and singer-songwriters on a mission to show that music has no borders. The duo performed for the high school in the auditorium, singing both Venezuelan and Appalachian folk music on harp, banjo, cuatro, fiddle, maracas, guitar, upright bass, and whatever else they decided to throw in the van. The program they offer features a distinct blend of their musical inheritances and traditions, as well as storytelling about the ways that music and social movements unite. It's a really awesome experience for everyone involved, and they have been going to the lower level schools as well. Interact, so their big community closet cleanup was postponed to next Wednesday because of some absences due to sickness. Math team had their last meet before states today. It was up in Wells. The team came 4th overall, which is super great. It was a really tough packet, but they broke 100 points, which is really awesome. Quiz Bowl had a meet last Saturday at Deering High School. It was a great day. The A team scored 6th overall, and the B team scored 7th. James Foss scored 9th overall, and
You smiled that time. All right, I'm proud of you. Okay.
And Mackie Bow scored 11th. Winter Guard and Winter Percussion had a show last Sunday. They scored all 3 stars, and they also have a show this upcoming Sunday, which is awesome. The one act play had 2 performances last weekend on the 1st and the 2nd. Everybody performed really amazingly. This Friday and Saturday, we'll be hosting one of the regionals for the main drama festival. One act performances will be given over the course of the 2 days, and 2 schools in the festival will move on to states, which is super awesome. And then finally, last night was the district band concert, and it went super, super awesome.
Thank you.
And that concludes my report.
Thank you. We have no correspondence this week on which to report, so we'll move into the report of the committees. Finance and Facilities will next meet on the 20th of March, which is in 2 weeks. Ed Policy, their next meeting will be March 27th. We have a bunch of stuff to deal with tonight, a bunch of first reads, right? So we'll cover that in business. Anybody on Ed Policy say anything about the last meeting, or we good to move on?
We're good.
Okay. And then Wellness and LPL. Next meeting, TBD. Anything more to say about that, or just it says next meeting, TBD?
The first meeting in April.
April.
Okay, first week in April, okay. Great, thank you. All right, so that's the report of the committees, and brings us to the aforementioned new business. May I have a motion, please, to approve the first reading on policy DB?
I'll move to approve the first reading and discussion of policy DB, budget development and adoption.
Second, Rebecca?
Thank you. Is this a new policy for us?
Title change?
I don't see any markups on it.
This is a title change, and we did some pretty major renovations, I think, just to make sure that it was really aligned to what we really do.
Okay. Got it. Anybody have comments or questions about this?
Nope.
It's pretty straightforward, it looks like. All in favor? That is 6-0, thank you. See that again in 2 weeks. Motion, please, with regard to the first read on DB-R.
I move to approve the first reading and discussion of policy DBR, budget development and adoption and administrative procedure.
Second has.
Okay, Lisa, got it.
This is new.
Okay,
So basically, we took our old policy,
Yep.
put it under the heading of the new policy that we just created, made it, but the procedure that we do it, and then we made it aligned more to what we are doing with this budget process.
got it.
Is that a fair assessment?
Yes, sounds good. Yeah, okay, this is good. Any questions or comments? All in favor? 6-0, thank you. Motion, please, with regard to the first read on EF.
I move to approve the first reading and discussion of policy EF, nutrition services, unpaid meal charges, and prohibition against food shaming.
Second, Heather.
Heather, thank you. This is a new, existing policy, title and content change.
We're replacing ours with the MSMA version.
Yes.
Ah, okay.
This really doesn't necessarily apply under the current economic conditions because the state of Maine has made breakfast and lunch free for students.
Okay.
But in the event that that does change, this policy becomes more important.
Sure.
I think the other thing, just philosophically, I think the committee had a really hard struggle with the term food shaming. It's really about the financial piece. It's not about what they're eating necessarily. It's about paying for what they're eating. So
Right.
Well, I wonder if that's like, because I worked in a district where like if they couldn't pay for it, they got like a certain meal option, only the one. So that's kind of like shameful if you
Yeah.
can only pick one, and then other kids might know that they're not able to.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's pretty rough.
Yeah.
It's a good
Yeah.
example.
Yeah, that's exactly the school I worked in too. You just get the peanut butter and jelly if you couldn't pay. So, like, will this policy be communicated clearly to the staff?
It really is, it doesn't really apply
doesn't
right
matter now
because
'cause it's
they
all
get the free
free.
meals.
Right.
There's no charge. Now, just for clarity, it gets a little bit wonkier when you get to the Great Works, when you get to the middle school and the high school where the,
A la carte.
thank you,
Yeah.
a la
Right.
carte items can be purchased. But the meal is free, a la carte items
Yeah.
are not free. So,
Yeah. But what if they're still hungry and want a second and then they're denied that?
yes, that would be, that would go to the a la carte at that time.
Oh.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, they could still get it, but they would have to pay. They get the first meal free. They would have, if they want a second, they have to pay.
Any other comments or questions? All in favor? 6-0, thank you. Motion, please, with regard to E EFBA.
I move to approve the first reading and discussion of policy EFBA, menu development / options, offer versus serve lunch concept.
I'll second.
Thank you.
Can I just say something
Yes,
real quick?
please.
Heather, with the way you just asked also, remember with Chartwells, the extra kids can get unlimited vegetables and fruits that they want with their meal. So just part of that, I know it's not necessarily another piece of pizza, but they can get as much of that as they want. That's
Okay.
for a second meal.
Do they realize that?
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
I know that.
My kids
Yeah.
do.
You do, your kid
Yeah.
I will
does.
tell you, Ronan really realized.
Okay.
He loves hot lunch. So,
That's awesome.
yeah.
Daniel definitely utilizes that option too.
All right.
Sorry.
That's it. Any comments about the offer versus serve concept?
I'll move to approve the first, oh wait,
Yeah, we have.
sorry,
already have
we
a
haven't
motion.
even approved, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm just asking if there are any further comments about it.
No.
Does everybody understand what offer versus serve means? So basically, if we offer it, they get to choose 3 out of the 5 things, or if it's served, that we put everything on the tray. And so we have an offer. We go by the offer. So as long as you have the 3 components out of the 5, that constitutes a meal. So
So now you don't have to take all of the things. You
And
can
have it
if
yeah.
it was served, you
Right.
get all. You can get
Take
all
3 of the 5,
regardless of what you
choice.
want.
Yes.
Guided, yeah. Lovely.
Anything else? Any comments or questions? All in favor? Okay, that's 6-0.
I think me going like this helped too, right? Like that clarified everything.
A motion, please, with regard to EFC.
I move to approve the first reading and discussion of policy EFC, school nutrition services, free school meals for all students.
Second,
Thank you,
Heather.
Heather. This is a new policy as well?
I think.
Yes.
Yeah.
Looks good.
Jen, you mind if I just mention
Yeah,
something?
go
So this
for it.
was a little bit tricky because we had to add some language because it really, like right now, this is correct. But if state funding were to go away and we had the policy in place, we would have to still give
Yeah.
the meals for free.
Right.
So we added some language to say as long as funding basically from the state was still available, we would keep this in place.
Yep.
Makes sense.
Mm-hmm.
Does indeed. Comments or questions? All in favor? Okay, that's 6-0, thank you. Motion, please, with regard to the first read on EFE.
I move to approve the first reading and discussion of policy EFE, competitive food sales, sale of food in competition with the school nutrition program.
I'll second Rebecca.
Thank you. This looks like it got substantial rework.
We went with, I think, the MSME version.
Okay.
There's a lot here.
Yeah, there is.
Yeah.
So basically, the thing that stood out to me at the committee meeting was that if you, I don't know, if you're serving food at a community event at the school or on property, there needs to be some healthy food choices.
Healthy options.
There's gonna be
Yeah.
bananas in a bowl on the thing at the
Yeah.
football game.
Yeah.
Something like that.
Yeah.
Yes, that is correct.
And I've seen that actually.
This also was a lot to do with like vending machines and those types of things. And so years ago, that was really controlled by the building levels. When Chartwells came on, Chartwell's taking care of those vending machines. Now, so they now take those monies that goes to the district to offset our food costs for a food service program. So that really solved that problem. That used to be quite a revenue source for schools. Have the soda machine money or whatever. At the time.
Okay, comments or questions? All in favor? 6-0, rather, excuse me. And this next one is a rescind. Motion, please, with regard to rescinding IHBAG.
I move we rescind policy IHBAG, programming in the least restrictive environment.
Second, Jen.
Jen, thank you.
This was covered in the Maine state law.
Okay. No longer needed.
Not needed.
Questions? All in favor? 6-0, thank you. Similarly, IHBAG-R rescind.
Move to rescind policy IHBAG-R, programming in the least restrictive environment, administrative procedure.
Second, Lisa.
Lisa? Thank you. Same thing.
Yep.
Now covered under state law, no need.
Yep.
All in favor? 6-0, very good. Last new business. Motion, please, with regard to donation.
Move to approve the donation of 10 ukuleles and 2 box drums with an estimated total value of $2,000 from Lisa Batterin.
I'll second.
Okay, thank you. John, anything to say about this?
Yeah, David Gratian contacted me that the music business school had a business. They had some things they wanted to donate, and they reached out to Mr. Gratian, and so we just so kind of them to think of us, and so we would just we appreciate the gift.
That's very cool. We do appreciate it. To show our appreciation.
Awesome.
Yes,
All in favor?
Yes.
6-0. Thank you very much.
So cool.
Okay, that concludes new business. We have a building administrator check-in with the lower grades. Who wants to go first?
We have a lot going on. I think just like James mentioned, we loved having Laurie and Joe at Central, and just a shout out to our music department. That was such a wonderful collective effort to go in all the schools and the Marshwood Education Foundation. Our kids were so excited. They learned songs in Spanish, so they got to sing to them. So it was just a beautiful day that our kids, they were like celebrities, and also just to hear about it from the high school. With my own kid, it was just a neat connection. So that was a wonderful opportunity. We have our first tomorrow night is our book bingo at Central School. So we've had tons and tons of donations of books for our families. And we're going to do a big book bingo where kids can pick new books and a big book swap. So that'll be really exciting too. And our outdoor classroom committee is really going strong right now. We have, through our PTO and our outdoor classroom committee, we have a Eagle Scout going to build a bridge in our really muddy part of our outdoor classroom. So we're excited to have the shortcut. Doesn't have to be through the mud. It can be through a nice bridge. And we're getting ready for our planting of the green. We're really working with our food service to be able to really do weekly vegetables from our hoop house. So lots of exciting things. So thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
You've heard a lot about Larry and Joe tonight, but you haven't heard about the dance party at
Oh,
Elliott Elementary School. Mr. Gratian, fill him in.
oh.
We had a lot of fun. They were incredible. Our kids were great. Let's see. The food service program provided us with green eggs and ham the other day.
Oh my
It
gosh.
was great. Principal had to test it before the kids, so
Uh-huh.
that went pretty well. Elliott Elementary School participated in the Read to Me Challenge, sponsored by by Maine Department of Education. That was terrific. Our third graders, they celebrate each year their biography projects, which is wonderful because we have grandparents, command parents, siblings, and all the students. They cycle through and see the great work that the kids have done. And Northeast Passage came to celebrate ability awareness. That's what I call it, ability awareness. And our kids had the opportunity to experience wheelchairs, have conversations about what that felt like. It was a great experience for them. Thanks very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Mr. Gratian said I had to dance tomorrow. So, Great Works, we have Larry and Joe coming tomorrow. And we're excited about that. Going to do a school-wide assembly, but also work with our chorus. Our chorus, under Mrs. Morrow, has been learning a song in Spanish for the last 3 or 4 weeks, and I think they got it. And yeah, there's one kiddo that moved in from Mexico, knows no English. Chorus is his favorite thing. They're doing the song in Spanish.
Aw.
And another, last night was the band program with the 5th grade through the high school band. And I was just, it's one of my favorite nights because it starts off with the 5th graders playing, and then they see the 6th graders, 7th and 8th grade band, and then the high school band. And the 5th graders, I mean, for them to be able to hear what they, where they can go with their music. And it was, and that's a long time to sit. I mean, they play, and they play for 2 minutes.
Yeah.
Right? And then they have to wait for about 45 minutes before they play again. And they were just locked in to see the 6th grade and the other band. So it was a great job. And just, I was writing, what to say, and just so proud of our kids. When you think of, like, at the Great Works School, and it's all schools, but just talk about the Great Works, is that our kids are always trying to do nice things for others. And so there are so many fundraisers or some type of donation. Kids come to me all the time and say, Mr. Burnell, can we do this? I'm now starting to combine 4th and 5th grade kids. Like, we can only do this. We can't have a fundraiser going all the time, but let's get together. But it is always they want to help someone else. And I'm just so tickled with them. And when you think of student voice, I would say 50 or 60% of the activities are kids coming to me and say, Mr. Bell, can you get I had some kids today, we need another soccer club. There was a comic book club. And and hats off to staff, I just asked staff, will someone do this club, that club? And staff just rise to the occasion. So again, I think that there's a lot of student voice. And also just how kids grow, 4th and 5th grade. I mean, we only have 2 years. I mean, it's quick. But I've had a chance to chat with a couple of kiddos the last couple of weeks on, a variety of different topics that they may be in the office for that they didn't want to be. But to see the growth that they have from a 4th grader to a 5th grader, and how they accept responsibility. It is just, really proud of them. Because sometimes I think you learn from those activities, because we all mess up. And it's just, you learn from that. And last, the wellness, we had some folks go to a wellness conference a couple weeks ago or a month ago, and they came back and Sarah Lindgren said, okay, one of the things we got to do is we got to do a polar plunge as a staff.
Nice.
And so we didn't get the whole staff, but we got 13 of us. I was there with them, but it was, and we hired someone that does this as a business, and we just talked about how it's good for you, just the whole science behind it, but also it was the camaraderie for the staff. So we got in, we all got in, and a few of us went back for a second. So it was pretty impressive.
Nice.
Thank you.
Awesome, thank you.
Thank you. Any other last thoughts from the board? Okay, I'll entertain a motion to adjourn.
Move to adjourn tonight's meeting.
I'll second it.
All in favor? At 6:00, we are adjourned. Thank you all.